All right, so this is going to be the Danny Baranowski video. This is going to be kind of my first real video of the channel. And in this on my channel, I'd really like to talk about, well, I guess Edmund McMillen, The Binding of Isaac. Those are kind of my hyperfixations, and I have a lot of thoughts swirling in my head about them, and various many things about the game, and certainly the background behind it. I feel like a lot of people have talked extensively about, the game. It's like, oh, it's about resource management and all that. It's like, yeah, I can play Isaac and have a good time, but what really captured me about Isaac was, just how different it was. Like, everything was different. That the art style was striking, the visual design, the characters. I mean, it was all had this certain style about it, this certain eccentricity about it, and that really was what kind of captured me in it. Sure, I can play the game forever. That's really what got me into Isaac, but what really, captured my imagination was, everything around it. And of course, you can't really talk about Isaac capturing your imagination if you're not mentioning the original composer of the game, Danny Baranowski. So this video is going to explain, just kind of give you a lowdown on who Danny Baranowski was, and of course, the big thing with the split. It's going to talk about the split between Danny Baranowski and Edmund McMillen, and this is something that a lot of people have speculated upon, and a lot of people have talked to death about, and I'll give you a few examples here. What really inspired me to make this video is that I'm an alt-right incel chud, and I go on 4chan all the time, and everyone's talking about, if you go to an Isaac thread on 4chan, everyone's talking about, what the hell happened to Danny Baranowski, man? Who's this ridiculous? Who are these ridiculous fuckers? What'd they do? What's the shit they did? Well, I mean, people have their own reasons and speculation, and, I think a lot of it is kind of, unsubstantiated. I don't think there's a lot of evidence that suggests that people... I mean, some people get the right thing, but, we're going to go over in this video, what actually kind of really, what I think really happened, because it's kind of surrounded in mystery, the split between Edmund McMillen and Danny Baranowski, and so I want to go over that and talk about that in this video. So here's one post, 2025. Danny's a libtard, crazy libtard, and it's like, that's why they split. They could have created together and saved Western indie games. I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. I mean, we'll go over that. I mean, this is something that has been going on for years. These are just recent posts here. Some autistic meltdown because Emmett didn't see eye to eye about politics and culture bullshit. It's like people come up with the craziest things about why this split happened. And this is from 2024. There's more of these posts, 2023. 2021, here's this whole novel about what happened, SJWs. It's like, oh my God. I just like a lot of headcanon, a lot of speculation. And of course, this goes way back. This is just recently. People are still talking about this guy making music for Isaac in the year 2011. And this person's doing it 10 years later, 14 years later. And, I mean, of course, even closer to Rebirth's release, people are talking about. This is from 2015. People really like Danny Baranowski. So we're going to be talking about Danny Baranowski and his composing for Isaac. And I feel like the best way to begin is just, who Danny Baranowski is as a composer. I mean, well, I'll read the Wikipedia page for you. I mean, some YouTubers do that, I mean, they just read the Wikipedia page and they don't tell you, but certainly this is a good overview on what, he does. Cannibal, Super Meat Boy, Binding Isaac, Crypt of the Necrodancer, all this great stuff, but I'm mostly going to focus on, his relationship with Edmund McMillen in this video. So, I mean, you can see he works Super Meat Boy. I should mention, Danny Baranowski worked on, I believe, 5 or 6 games with Edmund McMillen. You had the original Meat Boy, which he didn't make new music for, but it was reused old tracks he used and then just kind of put it in his game. This is the original Flash Meat Boy. I think people often, kind of lump that and Super Meat Boy together, or just pretend that Super Meat Boy is the only, Meat Boy game. But no, there's a Flash Meat Boy game as well, and that was kind of the start of their relationship. Well, actually, I mean, this is not mentioned here, but I think he also did music for Gray Matter, which is a kind of... This is one of Edmund's more obscure games where, it was kind of like a top-down shooter. It had a very interesting art style. And then I actually tweeted Edmund about this, like, hey, why don't you ever talk about Gray Matter, this cool game you did? And I think it was 2008 or 2007, around that time. And I think this was his first game he did. Either that or Meat Boy. I don't really know the whole timeline here. I mean, someone could look into that, but that was his first collaboration with Danny Baranowski in that game. And so in addition to Gray Matter, he did Meat Boy, the Flash game, Super Meat Boy, legendary soundtrack. We'll talk about that. The Binding of Isaac, of course, the original Flash version, and Wrath of the Lamb. And he also worked on, I said Spewer, which is another little Flash game that he did. and he also did one song for Aether, which is kind of weird. Aether is like the kind of artsy game that Edmund did with the white monster that goes in planets and whatnot, and he did it's kind of weird because it's like people are talking about like, oh, Isaac has multiple soundtracks, but like Aether did in like 2009. I think it was either for the Basement Collection, I guess, that Aether got its additional soundtracks from Danny Baranowsky and Laura Shigehara. There's a crossover for you if you like Plants vs Zombies. But yeah, it's kind of interesting how that all kind of merges together. But so yeah, for Basement Collection, he did Aether as well. And of course, he did the actual music for the Basement Collection, which was I guess I should explain what that is. It's it was kind of like a bundle of Edmund's old Flash games he did, and combined it into all one big package. And he did like the title music for that, all the little stuff. He also did AVGM, which is a game in that. Like he did one song for that. It was a kind of like a funny little song. So basically, I mean, through the years, I would say like 2008 to 2012 or so, Edmund and Danny are collaborating, and eventually Rebirth comes out, and he's not there for some reason. That's interesting. So why is that? So I should say, well, you also have Eugenics, of course, which is coming out next year, but it has a very long history. It was a thing that Team Meat, which was Tommy Rufenez and Edmund McMillen, they were teaming up on that, and it was really with them. And Danny was initially like pitched to do the music, but Edmund later explains that he wasn't a fit, and that Ridiculon was a better fit anyways. But that's the whole spiel on what Danny Baranowski did for Edmund. So that's kind of his history. This Wikipedia page isn't really mentioned here because these games are kind of obscure and they don't really have pages. But I guess I should also preface and say, like, hey, how did Edmund and Danny meet? Well, they met on a game called Cannibal, which is an endless runner. I have it right here. This is like, you've probably seen this game if you're a Flash game aficionado. It's a kind of this endless runner. I don't know if it really kickstarted that genre of like endless runners and like endless games, but I mean, it's one of the first. I think it's like 2009 it came out. So around this time, the guy who made Cannibal was it Adam Saltzman, who later also made The Night in the Woods and Tunic, if you know those games. There's this whole kind of indie sphere in the early 2010s that I think is really interesting. There's a lot of crossover between these people and a lot of names that might sound familiar to you. But yeah, they met on a game called Cannibal and this Endless Runner game. This music is really good, by the way. I got jam out to this. Like, if you've listened to Super Meat Boy soundtrack, this is kind of like a prototype of that, and it's really good. It kind of synthy, very good. Great jams this game. It's not too much of a crazy game, but I guess it did kind of kickstart a genre. If you ever played like Temple Run or something, I guess that owes its DNA to this little Flash game. It's crazy how many big popular games kind of take their inspirations from like Flash games. Like Angry Birds. If you ever played like a game called Crush the Castle, it's pretty much that. They just kind of took that concept and made it into a marketable mobile game and made millions, and now Sega owns it for some reason. It's weird. Anyways, so that's kind of the story with Danny Baranowski. He also got to start with Overclocked Remix, making video game remixes like this here. You can see all that, and it's great. So you'll have that as well. And so all right, we have Danny Baranowski here, did OC remix at Cannibals, worked on these games. And so we are now going to talk, I guess, kind of my relationship with Danny Baranowski. And of course, the first Edmund game I really played was The Binding of Isaac. That's what got me into it. Here, let me find the page here. This is his works here, Danny Baranowski's works. And, he's got quite a career here. But again, it really started with The Binding of Isaac for me. I mean, I guess I could go over that later. But I really want to talk about Super Meat Boy's soundtrack. Because this... I should make its own video about Super Meat Boy, but this is just it's like with Super Meat Boy, they got everything right with Super Meat Boy. It's just like this total juggernaut of an indie game that this it's a very solid platformer. It's people still play it and call it like a perfect game nowadays, and the music in this is insane. It's fucking insane. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm bobbing my head to this stuff. It's so good. I'll give you some of my favorites here of the soundtrack. We got Battle Little Slugger, that's classic. It's a great song. I mean, you can listen to this on the New York Time, but I'll just kind of go over my favorites here. So, Beat Us Blues, Can Assaults. I actually, with this, some of these songs are borrowed from the original Flash game of Meat Boy as well, and they're kind of remixed for this game. Can Assault, you have the Flash version as well. Is this here? No, I think this is on the this page here. This is he released the soundtrack multiple times for Super Meat Boy. I should say, one thing with Danny Baranowski is that he kept the copyright to his music, and so I'll bring up this article here. So this is a post-mortem of Super Meat Boy, and concerning Edmund McMillen here. I mean, honestly, if you know Edmund McMillen nowadays, I don't think he's really changed much as a person or as an artist. Like, you can see kind of strokes of who he is, even all the way back in 2010 with Super Meat Boy. And I'll go back to the relevant section here. Danny Baranowsky is an amazing musician. This is Edmund's words here. But one of the reasons why I believe his music was received so well is how things work behind the scenes. So Edmund is a big believer in artists, just doing their own thing and just kind of being in the zone and rewarding them for doing their own thing. And that's something that's certainly kept up nowadays. But it's an amazing addition to the game. Gets your heart rate up, complements every aspect of its gameplay, and stays with you for days. This is so true. This is so true because Super Meat Boy soundtrack is just fucking goated. It's fucking goated, dude. But yeah, he owns all the rights to the music he made for the game. So this is going to come up later. This is certainly going to come up later for Danny Baranowski here. Danny Baranowski. I say that word so much. I mean, his name so much. It kind of lives rent free in my head. Yeah, Danny B, Danny Baranowski. It doesn't even sound like a name anymore. It just sounds like a weird moniker, But so Danny Baranowski and Edmund McMillen. Edmund McMillen is very kind of generous. I mean, so it seems anyway. So he gives him all the credence and all the just gives him space to do whatever he wants with his music, and he just does that. So all right, so I've talked about certainly the origins of Danny Baranowski, OC remix, all these remixes here, Cannibals, and then he eventually, meets Edmund through this guy who made Cannibal, and great music, by the way. And then it makes Meat Boy and Super Meat Boy. This is this legendary, goated soundtrack. It's literally perfect. I mean, all these sounds. I have one more here. It Ends, Miko, and these are so good. I mean, Dr. Fetus's Castle. It's so good. It's so good. All right, it's great. It's crazy good. This guy just makes perfect music, and it's like this immense talent that Edmund has, and it's like, what happens to it? What happens to this immense talent that Edmund has? Well, we're going to talk about it a little bit. So he makes the Super Meat Boy soundtrack, and then of course he goes to the original Binding of Isaac soundtrack, and this is honestly just like. I am deeply, unhealthily obsessed with the soundtrack and Danny Baranowski. It's so good. It's a mixture of this like kind of dark fantasy film. Danny Elfman was an inspiration for this music. Even Danny Baranowski and both Edmund talk about that. That was kind of the inspiration of Danny Elfman's music. A lot of Tim Burton projects and whatnot. That's a little nugget of information for you. Certainly inspiration for Edmund's games here. And these soundtracks are just it's crazy good. I mean. Those responsible, the beautiful opening narration, like you hear that, and it's like, okay, in the beginning, of course, just like totally iconic classic music. Like this is what really drove me into Isaac. I will say, I think I got into Isaac from Northern Lion, watching it when I was like 10 or 11 years old or something, and like kind of getting obsessed about that game. But certainly the intro was very, very striking. This kind of cartoony, sketchy thing, but like matched with this like deep, dramatic orchestral score, and it's just totally amazing. Like this kid, being going to be stabbed to death by his mother. It's like, oh my god, it's just striking. It's just striking. It just lives rent free in my head and has done so for 14 years. So, Binding Isaac, of course. Oh my god. Just the strings, the synths, it's just perfect motif. This is the real theme of Isaac to me. I mean, of course, it's literally named The Binding of Isaac, of course. And of course, we have so much more iconic tunes: Sacrificial, Conflicted. Oh my god, the little boss intro, Divine Combat, the drums and the synths. And it's a work of art, of course. And you have all these kind of religious names too that really match with the theme of the game, and it's just incredible. An incredible soundtrack all around. And what's interesting here is to bring back from the OC remix thing. He got some people who kind of worked with him and did that, and they made music and kind of collaborated on this album. So like you have Big Giant Circles, who I believe was another OC remix guy, and C418. Here's another crazy indie crossover here. C418, the guy who did Minecraft's music, also did a song of this album. So again, in the early 2010s and late 2000s, there's this whole kind of indie scene with these people, and it's like they all these names just kind of pop up in the same place. It's very interesting. And of course, you can't talk about Isaac's soundtrack without talking about. Oh yeah, holy fuck, this is good. Oh my god. The brass hits, the motif, the drums, and the crazy synths here, and they're going hard as fuck. Like, this is like just insane music, insane soundtrack. It's still legendary. It's like he does Super Meat Boy soundtrack, which is an insane goated soundtrack in its own right, and then immediately after he does this soundtrack, which is like as good. It's crazy. I mean, of course, you can also apply that to Evan as well. He does Super Meat Boy, which is already like the peak of indie games. And then immediately after the next game, before he plans on doing eugenics, he does Binding Isaac, and it's like that was just like a generational run right there. It's like this is crazy. This is crazy what Edmund achieved. I mean, of course, he's still going strong with the Isaac thing, and of course, eugenics is going to come out next year. But crazy. Ultimately, really, really crazy. All right, so you got Super Meat Boy, you got the Binding Isaac, you got the Basement Collection, you got Spieler, you got all this awesome, legendary soundtrack. So what the hell happened? What the hell happened? So I'm gonna bring this up here. So this is the we'll skip about that. We talked about that. So this is a little intro from Edmund and his old blog spot. I should also ramble about this. Is that Edmund has so much websites and like social media that you have to troll through to actually like kind of get a timeline of his work. Because like it's not like he only had like a website or something or like a blog. No, he had his own. Well, he did have his own website. This is Cry for Help in the early 2000s. He was on Newgrounds. He was on TIG Forum, the independent games forum, same place where Minecraft was made, by the way. He has his own blog spot here. He has a Tumblr and all that. And it's not like Edmund like hates Danny Baranowsky, but like amazing works of his own. He talks very, very fondly of Danny here, and it's like the two are just like a duo. They're just like goats. They're just making Kino. They're making Ludo. They're making the greatest games of all time, and they're making the best soundtracks of all time, and they're making something truly transcendental together. So again, what the hell happened? So I guess how to preface this. I guess we can talk about. I mean, this is his statement on. So Super Meat Boy comes to console 2015. There's a new soundtrack by Ridiculon. It's like, what the hell is going on? And of course, Rebirth doesn't have the Danny Baranowsky music. And it's like, what is going on? And so he kind of lays it out in this 2015 blog post. It's like, so this is what Danny Baranowski's side is. It says, as many of you have probably already seen the news, but my soundtrack for Super Meat Boy will not be in the PS4 Vita versions. This is because I no longer have a working relationship with Team Meat. What does that mean? Like, what do you mean a working relationship? You may also know that I did not do the soundtrack for the Binding Isaac Rebirth. I made a decision a couple years ago to end my working relationship with them for many reasons that don't really need to be listed here. I apologize for my disappointment this may cause fans. I have heard rumors there's creative differences between us. This is not true, or at least it was never communicated to me. So that's interesting. So Danny says he doesn't really go into detail, but there's just not a working relationship anymore. And Team Meat, of course, 2015, this is Tommy Fenez and Edmund McMillen. And so what is going on here? There's not really much of an answer. So this is not true. This is never communicated. I own all the rights to my music, as I said. Edmund did that. This is very interesting. He gives the copyright to his musicians. He just lets them go and just lets them be in their element and kind of rewards them. And that's it shows off in spades with the beauty that is the Super Meat Boy and Isaac soundtracks. But they did reach out to license it again, but so it wasn't enough to make me seriously consider accepting the deal. So was it something money related? Apparently it wasn't creative differences, so that's interesting. This is all according to Danny Baranowsky, of course. So this is, again, I'm not sure if I preface this, but this is a post on his website, his blog spot, which is this is his last post on the website, I guess, before permanently migrating to Twitter. So that's one thing. But let's talk about Edmund's side. So this is the original Isaac Rebirth console remake. So this is like the first post that kind of announced Rebirth. I think there was also the post-mortem of the Binding Isaac where they talked about the remake. But this is the first post that really announces that Binding of Isaac Rebirth is happening. And look down. What's this? The game will feature new music by Danny B as well as some spicy remixes of old tunes. So it's not like Edmund just switched to Ridiculon arbitrarily. It's like Danny Baranowsky was always planning to continue working on Isaac and working on new music. I mean, but judging by this, I assume it'd be like a totally like revamped soundtrack. Like he'd take old music from Isaac and do it again, and as well as new music as well. And it's like, wow, what would that timeline look like? Wouldn't that be awesome if there was like new Danny Baranowsky music, or at least something styled like that, like nowadays, and it's like good and great, and it kind of works together. If only someone did that. But maybe we'll talk about that later. But so Rebirth doesn't have the Danny Baranowsky soundtrack. Super Meat Boy 2015 release has a new soundtrack, Ridiculon, Laura Shigeru, again, that name again, and Scattle, Hotline Miami, great music. I mean, the 2015 soundtrack, I mean, it's not Danny Baranowsky, but it's pretty good in its own right. I won't really talk about that. Maybe in the Ridiculon video I'll talk about that, but let's see, what is this here? So this is more. This is sorry about the broken web page here, but this is what I got. So this is the original Super Meat Boy console release here. Let's see. You'll notice that the soundtrack is different. So long story short, we couldn't secure the rights to include the old soundtrack with the release of the game in PS4 Vita. So again, this is corroborating Danny Baranowski's message here. It says he didn't want to license it out. I guess it wasn't enough. So what was going on there? So this is by Tommy Ruffenes. This is his own perspective on things. And so, I mean, we've talked about Tommy with Team Meat. We talked about Danny Baranowski's perspective on the split. And I suppose the only thing left is talking about Edmund's own thing with the split. So this is a TikTok by Edmund McMillen. Yeah, really a TikTok, but this is. I mean, Edmund has a habit of reiterating things over and over, and I think this is. He's probably talked about Danny Baranowski in the split several times over in his career, but this is a good, simple little video. So let's give it a watch.
So a very long time ago. I'm not even sure, like 2007 or 2008. I was looking for a musician for something I was working on, possibly the original Meat Boy, I think that's what it was. And I messaged Adam Saltzman, who made a game called Cannibal. I don't think it was out yet. And I asked him if he had recommendations on musicians, and he recommended Danny because Danny was doing music for Cannibal. And I really liked his music, and I needed music fast. So I just asked to use existing tracks that were on his website. I don't think he made new tracks for Meat Boy. I think it was all stuff that already existed. And it was great. I really liked it. I really liked how fast-paced it was, and it was nice working with him. It was easy. And then, of course, we had him come back for Super Meat Boy and do a bunch of new tracks and remixes of old tracks. And then Binding the original Binding of Isaac, and then once Mugenics started to be in development, the original prototype, I ended up not using him, and I think he believed that he was going to be the musician to do the music, and I think I had said in an interview or possibly somewhere online that Ridiculon was going to be doing the music, and then when he heard about that secondhand, he got very upset, and that caused the initial big divide. And truth be told, I have no issue with Danny. I really like his music, obviously. I think he did a very, very good job on Super Meat Boy, especially, and yeah, I don't have any bad blood. I have no issues with him, but I don't think he likes me, and that's okay, because not everybody needs to like me.
Okay, so that's the video from Edmund. So he says apparently it's creative differences. So Ridiculon was working on Mugenics at the time, the Team Meat prototype, and Danny read that and I guess got mad about that. But I also swear that somewhere I probably should have found a link for this. Is that Danny Baranowski was really originally pitched for Mugenics. Like they tried working with him on that and tried to make some in-tone jazzy music for Mugenics, but apparently he wasn't the guy for it, and so that was from another Edmunds post. But I mean, this kind of explains it here. So, is it creative differences or not? Is it financial differences? Like what is going on there? So I mean, like Danny says, he couldn't license out the music; it wasn't worth the price. Tommy says again they couldn't license it out, and Edmund says apparently it was creative differences. So, what is the truth here? It's kind of muddled and obscure. So you have three different sources here, and they all say different things. It's like, so what really happened? Like, what can you really do with that? So I guess I'll go to the theories now about what really happened. First, as you saw by these 4chan posts here, I screen capped. Some people say like, oh, it's a political difference. Well, I mean, okay. I mean, if I had to ascribe Edmund's kind of political stance, I'd say he's like a '90s California liberal kind of. He's certainly transgressive with his art, but like I think ultimately he is a liberal, and certainly he's probably goes with the mantra like do whatever you want, whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you feel comfortable and happy, and whatever identity you want for yourself, that's something you can do. But so this is an old this is from again another website that Edmund had, his Tumblr, which was abandoned in like 2018 or 2017 or something. Again, he hops over all different social media websites. This is a question asking about Gamergate, and this is kind of dicey. I mean, this is kind of rearing up old drama. I'm sure you can Wikipedia that or Grok it if you want a more unbiased source, I guess, or whatever. So says Elon Musk. But I mean, this is what Edmund's stance on it is that every week it's a new story blown up out of proportion about how everyone's a slut, rapist, racist, misogynist, who obviously have no idea what it's like to work on have any of these things happen to them, nor do they understand how life actually works. And when something is none of anyone else's business, I mean, it's kind of hard to read Edmund's writing here. I mean, he is dyslexic, so what can you really do? But I want no part of the scene of broken animals attempting to act human to make themselves feel better or important. So Edmund is just locked in. He's making games. He doesn't care about this crap, this drama. He just wants to make games, and he doesn't care about the drama of the week. So could that have potentially caused a rift? I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I should say Danny Baranowski, he's on Blue Sky. He's on I think he's a part of like some team that like has some kind of like DI thing going. I'm not like I'm not like an alt-right commentator or something, but like this is just my view on it. It's just like, is it something political? I mean, maybe, we don't really know. I mean, Edmund didn't talk about that. Tommy didn't talk about that. Neither did Danny. So I don't really have any reason to believe it's something political. I mean, I don't think Edmund is exactly some chud incel who is totally like a Nazi. He's a Nazi and like he loves Hitler or something. And that just, and like Danny found that out later. I mean, he worked with him for 2 years. So I mean, if there was something like that, it probably would have been more apparent. So I don't think it's really anything political. I don't think there's really anything kind of corroborating that. So you have Danny's view. It's financial. You have Tommy's view. Says it's also like a licensing issue. Edmund says it's creative difference. So I mean, is Edmund lying here? Is Danny lying here? Is like what is going on? So I'm not saying it can't be both. Not saying it's only one or the other. But what's really the truth of the matter? If only there was like an impartial third source here. Like, I don't know. This is the audio credits for the original game, of course. You have music by Danny Baranowsky. Jules Conroy. I think he goes by, like, Family Jules 7X on Twitter. Or not Twitter, YouTube. But, like, he does great guitar covers of a lot of songs. And he was teamed up with Danny Baranowsky here for, I believe it was My Innermost Apocalypse he did the music on. So there's that. But Matthias Bossi, of course, he did the narration for the original game as well, carrying into Rebirth. So you have these. This is the audio team. I'm just saying, like, hypothetically, like, if only there was, like, someone else who worked on the audio of the game that wasn't also involved in Rebirth, someone hypothetical that maybe, I don't know, could be asked about these things and maybe was in a similar boat. I'm just saying hypothetically, maybe like you could contact like this hypothetical person and speak to them about that. But I mean I can't do that. This person doesn't exist, of course. So with that in mind, if you're Edmund McMillen and you lose this great immense talent for your game, I mean, I would say that's probably like one of the biggest things, like the biggest missteps in your career, right? Like you lose this legendary musical talent whose music you love, didn't really change anything. But yeah, about the TikTok, one more thing here. Edmund says that, hey, something happened between me and Danny, and that eventually led to him working with Ridiculon, Matthias Bossi, and John Evans, as he mentions here. And so I mean, that's kind of how Edmund works. Like, if something happens to him, like he will want to make something from that. He'll want to work on moving forward and seeing like oh, shit happens. What can I do next, and kind of get inspired from that. So he's not too attached to them. But I'll certainly talk about Ridiculon more in another video. But there's that. So hypothetically, this person who might know. I mean, hypothetically, if I ask them, maybe they know. So excuse me. So. What does Edmund think is his biggest misstep in his career, his biggest mistake, his biggest regret? If he's telling aspiring game devs, what should you do? What should you do? And like, here's our mistake. Here are mistakes you shouldn't make. Don't do what I did. So I wonder what that is for Edmund. So let's look at that. What's this? This is his Twitter here. Let's look at this. So, what advice would you give yourself in the past that would have saved a lot of trouble? Don't be trusting of people and don't be so generous. Also, make sure I always did contracts. So. Contractual things seem like kind of a recurring thing here. Like it seems like back in the day when he was making games, there's more kind of laissez-faire and more kind of relaxed and not so strict and business oriented. But like, of course, Super Meat Boy and Isaac did numbers on Xbox and PC and Steam, of course. And maybe someone wants a piece of that pie, hypothetically. Maybe a percent of royalties. I don't know, a percent of gross. And and then it talks about this kind of extensively. Anytime that someone asks like, hey, if you could go back in time and change one thing about any of your games, what would it be? Probably getting contracts. It seems like that's kind of a recurring theme here. It's a contractual issue. So, I mean, if you lose this generational talent of Danny Baranowski, I mean, and he says that his biggest mistake in his career is not being able to secure contracts. I think this is the most credible theory that I have for what really caused a split between Edmund and Danny Baranowski. It's a contractual thing. Potentially maybe corroborated by this hypothetical person that maybe I asked about that. So, and apparently, I mean, I think it's just it's a contractual issue. It's that Danny wanted a bigger piece of the pie, the Isaac and Super Meat Boy pie. These games did absolute numbers. Isaac is still like the most played like single player roguelike game. Or roguelike, whatever, I mean, on Steam to this day. And that's tons of sales. And it is a multi-millionaire because of it. And I'm just saying, maybe Danny wanted a piece of the pie. And maybe Ridiculon, Matthias, and John, maybe didn't give as much of a rate. Maybe they weren't so expensive. And so I think that's kind of my theory for what really happened. I'd say it's a contractual thing. It wasn't political. It wasn't creative. I mean, Edmund says it's creative, but, maybe he won't be, so explicit about that, saying, hey, I kind of screwed over this guy and didn't really give him what he thought he was owed for his game. And then he's kind of total authority on his games. Like, he is the dictator art is a dictatorship, not a democracy, and he's certainly the dictator of his crazy, wacky worlds for his games. And I think Danny probably wanted a bigger piece of the pie, and Edmund was like, "This is my game, and like I paid you." He probably, I assume it's a lump sum up front. He pays for soundtracks. It doesn't give him a percent gross, and that's probably what happened. I think that's probably what happened. He just didn't give him enough of a rate, and that probably caused an issue. Like he didn't secure a good contract for him. Kind of was, I don't know, ringing him a little bit, and that's probably what caused a split. I think, in my opinion. So unfortunate, but sometimes that's how these things are in the business. Like you have this amazing talent, sometimes you just lose it, and not much you can really do besides just keep moving on and keep creating, which is exactly what Edmund did. And as much as I love Danny Baranowski's music, as much as I think it's amazing, as much as I will kind of admit, maybe I'm biased. I do like Danny Baranowski's soundtrack for Isaac Moore, even though I'm an Edmund diehard, and it's his vision now. He certainly likes Ridiculon at this point. I think he said at this point, I do like Ridiculon more than Danny Baranowski, which is an interesting thing to say because in the past maybe you didn't before. So I mean, it was intended for Danny to work on the remake. So I will say that's certainly something. I think it wasn't a creative decision to go with Ridiculon over Danny. I think it was more so like, hey, Ridiculon was working on Eugenics at the time. Why not pull them and work on Isaac? I mean, there's one less person to pay because Matthias already does the narration for the game. So I think that's certainly something there. So that's kind of my overview on Danny Baranowski. Legendary soundtrack. You certainly heard me, legendary musician. You've heard me ramble about it. And I've kind of not. I don't really have much more to say. I mean, that's kind of the whole extent. I think it's what caused the split was a contractual issue, and it's unfortunate, but that's how things are. So, anyways, that's the video. I'll probably have more videos certainly about Isaac and Edmund McMillen in the future. Definitely. I just kind of want to start with a good kind of overview of Danny Baranowski. I feel like this is something that is very important to me. I've felt like I want to make music because I've been so deeply inspired by Danny Baranowski's soundtrack, but I've kind of specced into a lot of other things, unfortunately. So I can't really make any good music. But if I were to make music, it would certainly be in the footsteps of Danny Baranowski. Like I really love his sound. I really love his work. It's legendary. It's inspirational, and this is what really caused me to fall in love with Isaac in the first place. If Isaac just had a generic beat boop soundtrack for the game, it just I would not have been so deeply inspired by it. And so this is going to be one of my first Isaac videos. I'll certainly talk more about Isaac and Edmund McMillen in the future. And I'm trying to think of anything more to say here. I'll certainly talk about Ridiculon and some other Isaac soundtrack stuff. It'll probably be a multi-part series. This is part 1, we'll call it. And I hope you learned something from this video. I hope you maybe can agree with me that Danny Baranowski is the fucking GOAT. And fortunate that he of course, I probably should talk about what happened to Danny Baranowski after Isaac and Super Meat Boy, all about that fallout. Of course, he moved on to Crypt of the Necrodancer. He moved on to, it's pretty much what he's done since. He also did get the Zelda crossover. I mean, that's got to be amazing. If you have a career making fan remixes for Zelda music and all these classic video game music, and eventually being able to work on that in an official capacity, that's got to be something great. And he then worked on Cadence Hyrule, more Crypt of the Necrodancer stuff, and Rift of the Necrodancer. It's a new rhythm game with that. And I'm happy he still has a career. I'm happy he's still working. I'm very happy for him. And what's interesting with Rift of the Necrodancer, I'm not sure if the Wikipedia page will offer this. I probably should have pulled up like a tab or something, but I don't feel like really searching it. But hey, there's crossovers here. And what's this? Super Meat Boy. Interesting. So this is due to something the Team Meat split. Because if it was a problem with Edmund that Danny had, it's certainly not the case anymore. Because now that Tommy Refenis has taken over Team Meat, maybe it's better with him, and maybe he gave him a better deal to license out the Super Meat. It is his music, so. But he also the update also used the Meat Boy character, and of course, so I imagine there's some communication there. But it seems like there's not much issues there with Team Meat or Tommy Refenis at least. But maybe something with Edmund, certainly. Maybe something that Edmund didn't really give him a good deal. But at this rate, Edmund is just comfortable with Ridiculon, and that's not changing, unfortunately. But what Edmund does is keep moving on. So that's about it for the Danny Baranowski video. So I think I talked about it extensively. I went over my whole spiel, and I hope you learned something. Goodbye.